Hey guys, I'm Kent and welcome back to my channel. So after my first track day that I had on my 2019 Honda Monkey, there's a few changes that I wanted to make. If you saw the crash video, one of the big things there is the brakes. So I have the full Brembo kit for the front that I'm going to be setting up on this bike shortly. But the other is the handlebars. So I've been running the man-in-the-box handlebars on this bike for pretty much the entire time that I've had it. They were very inexpensive. I think they were only about $30. They're a little bit lower and I like the profile more than the stock one. But now on the track, I find it pretty difficult to get into that attack position because it's somewhat laid back. You have to have your elbows pretty far back to be leaning forward and putting weight on the front tire. And that's easily resolved by doing a different handlebar setup. So I was thinking about doing the Pro Taper setup that I did on my wife's 2022 Grom, but at the same time I'd like to move it a little bit more forward. So I decided to do the same clip-on setup using the Chimera bracket that I did on my Repsol themed 2022 Grom. Because it moves the post a little further forward and it's going to get them as low as possible. On my 22 Grom, I'm using the 1.5 inch risers, and that's because the fairings on the 22 Grom need the handlebars to be a little bit higher so that it can clear all of the fairings when it's on full lock from side to side. Because the tank on this bike though is shaped pretty differently, I think I can get away with the 0 inches of rise. So there's no rise on these. It's going to be a little flatter and a little bit lower. So definitely a little less comfortable cruising around town, but again, this bike is going to very infrequently be cruising around town and I'm going to want to be in that more uncomfortable attack position where I'm as low and as forward as possible. So this will be a pretty easy install. I'll also link above to the more detailed install I did on my 22 Grom, but it should be about the same steps as changing a handlebar. This bracket bolts on to the bottom side of the stock clamps and it just uses the same 4 bolts. Then the 2 Woodcraft clamps clamp around these portions of the bar, and then you cinch down the actual bars. As far as drilling the holes to retain the controls on the left and the right side, it's a little bit easier in this case because you just have to get the distance from the end correct. You can spin these within the clamps, so it only matters laterally where the hole is. Otherwise, it can be anywhere around the bar because you can twist it until it lines up perfect. So the final product looks awesome. I actually cut the 2 halves to different sizes. So on the right side here, I cut it pretty much right where the end of the clamp happens so that it doesn't protrude out too far. My tachometer is also offset, so I have a lot more screen on the right side that I didn't want it interfering with. But it now comes again just a few millimeters past the end of the clamp, and everything there looks really clean. You can also see some of the new hardware I used on my stainless steel brake lines. And then on the left side here, I left about 30 millimeters of the bar protruding out. Again, for one, I have more space because the tachometer is offset, but then I can mount my quad lock mount as well as the controls for my Takogawa screen. And now that the handlebars are shorter and more forward, I also changed the length of the stainless steel brake line. This one is 70 centimeters. You can see it running through the bike here. I reused the factory grommet and put it around the grommet that came on the line so that it mounts firmly inside of the housing on the fork. And then I installed the Brembo brake kit. This is actually very similar to the kit that I installed on my other 2022 Grom, the one with the Repsol livery. I'll link above because I did a more detailed installation on that. The process was the exact same on this bike. On this bike I had to use a different mount though. This one's specifically for the Monkey and I got it from Dro Sports. I'll link to all of the products in the description below. But I'm using the same P34 caliper that I did on the other bike, and on the Monkey here I have these nice EBC rotors. I also used a .4 brake fluid when I did the installation of the cable and flushed out for all new fluid. In addition to having previously run the .3 fluid, which has a lower boiling point, I think since I've had that brake fluid in the bike for the last couple of years, some moisture probably did get in, which lowered the boiling point, which led to the incident that occurred again resulting in almost no damage that was anything more than superficial. So looking forward to getting this bike back onto the track soon. And while I'm at it, I'm going to install these Tst Axle Sliders that I just picked up. These are a pretty interesting design. All you do is take off this piece, and then on each side you thread this through first, and once that's on, you bolt it down and torque it as normal, and then put this Delrin cap over that's replaceable. And they sell the caps separately, so if you do scratch them up, it's easy to replace. Anyway, a pretty neat solution, and it'll be very easy to install. All right, so all those installations were very easy, and I'm very pleased with the result. Most importantly, I got the new brake system on. I did the Brembo P34 brake caliper, the stainless steel line, and I'm using a .4 fluid that has a higher boiling point than the .3 that I had in there, as well as it now being fresh, so there's no moisture and shouldn't be able to boil even under heavy braking. The new clip-on setup puts the bars much more forward and more low, so it's much easier to get into that attack position. Unlike the other bars that I was running previously that put them all the way back here and having to put your elbows way back to be in that attack position and have the weight over that front wheel. And the Tst Axle Sliders have that added protection for the bottom part of the bike, and they also look fantastic. The stock bolt head and the nut never really looked very clean, but now with the stainless steel cup as well as the Delrin puck on the outside, it looks very sharp. So again, in addition to the added protection, I really like the way that it looks. So for those of you that stayed around to the end of the video, a couple of things coming up that I'm really excited about. Earlier this week I was in Dallas, Texas, and finally got to meet Craig from Moto Bros. I've been a big fan of him and his wife Moto Kate for a while, and I'm running a few of their products on my other 2022 Honda Grom. But we spent a couple of hours talking about different collaboration ideas, and I think we may do a collaboration build together. So let me know in the comments below what you think would be a fun build for us to do together. Again, him living in Texas and me in California. I don't know if we're going to ship the bike back and forth. I've got plans to go back to Dallas again soon, and he's talking about him and Kate coming down here to San Diego, but I'm really interested in what you guys think would be a cool build for us to do together. And for my wife's 2022 Grom, I've got a few things planned for it. I've got the Taiga exhaust, which I still need to get up to rider's block to dyno because I want to see how much that bike is making in the stock form as well as with that new exhaust. I'm also really curious on the way that it looks and sounds. I'm also planning on getting that on my other Grom as well for a sound and performance comparison. But besides the exhaust system, I today decided to do something pretty wild, something that I haven't done on any of the other bikes. So stay tuned for that because it's going to be pretty exciting. Thank you everybody very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.